Every single day, your mind keeps you miserable, worried, angry, not because of what happened to you, but because of what your nervous system cached from it. There's a 3,000-year-old map that explains exactly why cognitive reframes don't reach it and what actually does. Miss this, and you'll keep snapping back to the old pattern the moment stress hits. In this video, I'll show you number one, why samskaras, the Vedic term for cached mental impressions, are a more precise and actionable explanation for your stuck patterns than neural wiring or just be present. Number two, why cognitive reframes alone can't reach the past and which layer of you they're actually missing. Number three, a specific three-step interruption practice that works at the energetic level before the old pattern reaches your conscious mind. Let's get into it. A woman I'll call Priya had read every book. She could explain polyvagal theory. She could quote Eckhart Tolle. She knew intellectually that she was not her thoughts. And then her mother would call. And within 40 seconds, she was 17 again, defensive, small, furious at herself for being defensive and small. She told me, I realized it was because I thought I was injured, which kept me injured. She wasn't wrong, but she didn't yet know where the injury was actually stored or how to reach it. Priya's problem had a name in Vedic philosophy long before neuroscience had the tools to see it. The Sanskrit word is samskara. Literally translated, it means impression, the mark left on the mind after an experience passes through it. Pru, bu, pa, du describe samskaras as grooves. Every significant experience, especially ones loaded with fear, shame, or intense desire, cuts a groove into the mind. The deeper the groove, the more automatically perception flows into it. You don't decide to flow there. Water doesn't decide to follow a channel. It just does. This is where the distinction gets specific, in a way most conversations about the past never get. A samskara is not a memory. It's not a story you tell yourself. It's a cached program. Think of your phone's operating system. Underneath every app you consciously open, there are background processes running, consuming resources, shaping performance, occasionally crashing things, and you never see them. Samskaras are background processes. They run below the level of thought. This is why the standard advice, just observe your thoughts and don't identify with them, works beautifully in a meditation session and then collapses the moment your mother calls. The thought you're observing is not the program, is the output of the program. You're watching the screen while the code runs underneath. Modern trauma research confirms this in its own language. When an experience is encoded under high stress, the hippocampus, which normally timestamps memories, so your brain knows they're in the past, gets partially bypassed. The amygdala stamps the experience as present tense threat. This is why a smell, a tone of voice, a particular quality of light can trigger a full body response that feels completely current, even when the event was 20 years ago. The brain isn't being irrational. It's running cached threat detection code that was written for a different environment. So when Priya said, I thought I was injured, which kept me injured, she was describing something real and precise. The samskara wasn't the original wound. It was the cached interpretation. I am someone who gets hurt here. And that interpretation had been running so long, it felt like her personality. The Vedic tradition is very clear on this point, and it's worth sitting with. Samskaras are not the self. They are accumulations on the self. The word pru, bu, pa, da uses is covering. Like dust on a mirror, the mirror hasn't changed. You just can't see it clearly through the dust. The first practical thing you can do with this today is change the question you ask when you react. Instead of, why did I do that again? Ask, which program just ran? That single reframe moves you from self-blame to investigation. You're not broken. You're running old code. This is the question I hear most often from people who have done serious work on themselves. I intellectually understand all of this, presence, rewiring, letting go, yet I still snap back the moment I'm stressed or triggered. Why? The Vedic answer is structural, and it's one of the most useful maps I've found for understanding why cognitive work has a ceiling. The Taittiriya Upanishad describes the human being not as a single unified self, but as 5 nested sheaths, the Panchakosha. Each sheath is a different layer of your experience, operating at a different density. The outermost is the physical body, Annamaya Kosha. Inside that is the energy body, the Pranamaya Kosha, breath, nervous system regulation, the felt sense of aliveness or depletion. Inside that is the mental emotional body, Manomaya Kosha, thoughts, feelings, reactive patterns. Inside that is the intellect, Vijnanamaya Kosha, discernment, understanding, wisdom. And at the center is Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss sheath, the deepest layer of conditioned experience before pure awareness. Now, watch what happens when you try to break free from the past using only cognitive tools. You're working at the Vijnanamaya level, the intellect. You read, you understand, you reframe. That's real work, and it matters. But most samskaras from significant past experiences don't live primarily in the intellect. They live in the pranamaya and manomaya sheaths, the energy body and the emotional body. They're encoded in your breath pattern, your muscle tension, your gut response, your nervous system's baseline setting. Polyvagal theory, developed by neuroscientist Stephen Porges, maps almost perfectly onto this. Porges showed that the autonomic nervous system has three states: ventral vagal, safe, connected, present; sympathetic, fight or flight; and dorsal vagal, shut down, freeze, collapse. Trauma and intense past experiences push the nervous system toward chronic sympathetic or dorsal states. And here's the key: these states are subcortical. They happen below the thinking brain. You cannot think your way out of a subcortical state any more than you can think your way out of a sneeze. This is what Priya was missing. Every book she read was working at the Vijnanamaya level. The intellect understood completely, but the pranamaya sheath, her energy body, her nervous system, was still running the old program. The two layers weren't talking to each other. The Vedic tradition knew this. That's why the system it offers isn't primarily philosophical, it's somatic. Pranayama, breath regulation, is not a relaxation technique, it's a direct intervention in the pranamaya kosha. Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, is not avoidance. It's a method for interrupting the pipeline between external stimulus and automatic reaction before the samskara fires. The modern parallel: somatic therapies like EMDR, somatic experiencing, and internal family systems all work at the body memory level precisely because researchers discovered that cognitive processing alone doesn't resolve trauma held in the nervous system. Both traditions arrived at the same conclusion from different directions. The takeaway here is specific. If you have been trying to break free from the past using only understanding and mindset work, you haven't failed. You've been using the right tool on the wrong layer. The work that reaches samskaras starts with the breath, not the belief. On some days, you won't feel like doing the work. The old pattern will feel more real than any framework you've learned. That's not weakness, that's a deeply cached samskara doing exactly what it was built to do: conserve energy by running the familiar program. So, the practice I'm going to give you isn't a meditation retreat. It's a three-step interruption you can run in under 2 minutes anywhere the moment you feel the old pattern beginning to activate. It works because it enters at the pranamaya level, the energy body, before the samskara reaches full conscious expression. Step 1: locate before you label. The moment you notice the familiar feeling starting, the tightening, the reactivity, the pull toward the old behavior, stop trying to name what you're thinking. Instead, find it in your body. Where is it physically? Chest, jaw, stomach, throat? Just locate it. Don't analyze it. Don't ask why it's there. This single act shifts you from being inside the program to observing it. In Vedic terms, you're moving from Manomaya identification to Vijnanamaya witnessing. In polyvagal terms, you're activating the prefrontal cortex's capacity to observe the nervous system state rather than be consumed by it. Step 2: interrupt the breath pattern. Every samskara has a corresponding breath signature. Anxiety is fast and shallow. Shutdown is slow and held. Anger is short exhales. You didn't choose those patterns, they were cached with the original experience. Change the breath, and you change the energetic state before the thought loop can complete. The specific technique: 4 counts in through the nose, hold for 4, 6 counts out through the mouth. Do this 3 times. This is not deep breathing for relaxation. This is a direct intervention in the pranamaya kosha, the energy sheath where the samskara lives. The extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the physiological equivalent of telling the cached threat detection program, the original danger is not present. You're safe to update the file. Step 3. Name the samskara, not the story. After the breath interruption, when you have a few degrees of separation from the activation, give the pattern a neutral technical name, not my abandonment wound or my anger problem. Those names keep you identified with it. Try something like the not enough program or the danger when criticized cache, something that signals to your brain. This is a stored file, not a current fact. Pru Bu Pa does. Teaching on this is precise. The impressions are not the self, but they are mistaken for it. The moment you name the samskara as a cached program rather than a personal truth, you have created the gap that makes rewiring possible. Neuroscience calls this memory reconsolidation. Every time a memory is retrieved and held in a slightly different context, the brain has a window to update how it's stored. You're not erasing the past, you're updating the file with new metadata. This happened and I survived it, and it is not happening now. The question people always ask at this point is, how long does this take? The honest answer is that there's no universal timeline, and anyone who gives you one is guessing. What I can tell you is what progress actually looks like day to day, because it's not what most people expect. You won't feel a dramatic shift. You will notice a delay. Where the old pattern used to fire instantly, there's now a half-second gap, then a 2-second gap, then you catch it before it fully activates. The gap is the evidence. The gap is the rewiring happening in real time. Priya's breakthrough wasn't a moment of sudden healing. It was the first time her mother called and she noticed the familiar tightening in her chest, took 3 breath cycles, and said to herself, the 17-year-old's program is running. She didn't stop the call. She didn't transform the relationship, but she was present for it in a way she hadn't been before. That's what breaking free from the past actually looks like at first. Not freedom from the pattern, freedom from being the pattern. That gap between knowing this and sustaining it, when you're actually triggered, that's where most people get stuck. And it's exactly what the next step is designed for. If you've tried understanding this on your own, the reading, the reframes, maybe even some breath work, and you still find yourself snapping back the moment real stress hits, the fastest path through that is a direct conversation. I offer a free 15 to 30-minute call, no pitch, completely personal. We look at exactly where your specific pattern is getting stuck, which layer it's living in, what's keeping it cached, and you walk away with a clear next step for your situation, whether we ever work together again or not. The link to book is in the description at dailymindreset.com to your consultation. It takes about 60 seconds to schedule. If this way of thinking about the mind is useful to you, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. Tell me this, when you catch an old pattern firing, does it show up first as a thought, a feeling, or a physical sensation? And has that always been the same for you?